So here we have the Johnson SD-15. This is a 16 horse motor with an integrated pressurized fuel tank. It holds 2.5 gallons of gasoline, mixed gasoline. And we'll mix that at 8 ounces of oil to 1 gallon of gas. There's a vent cap. The magneto is separate from the fuel. Fuel control, high speed, low speed. This is your high speed adjustment, low speed adjustment. This is a prime function. Fuel shut off on the opposite side. Hey guys, I thought I'd kind of go over this carburetor a little bit. It's definitely one of the more intricate designed carburetors that I've ever seen. It still has a conventional float bowl, but it also uses a, there we go. You have the spinning disc or spinning drum here that as it rotates, this orifice is going to, more of this orifice is going to get exposed, allowing more airflow between the two ports. This is your air horn at the top here. Air comes in, flows through here, what's exposed, and then exits through the back. Back side there. On the top here, these two little wires that we have, this is the shut off, turn the motor off there, and at the throttle position and the off position, that will make contact at those 2 points and it'll ground the magneto out. Now here on this lever here on the top side, this is going to be your fuel prime. When you bring it up this way, it has a lever that'll ride over here to this plunger, and when you go, it's going to depress that plunger a few times, forcing fuel into the air horn area, I believe, or into the idle start circuit. There's another plunger or another arm that rides up this cam that goes here to this, I believe, is the high speed jet or the main fuel pickup. I'm not exactly sure what you would call it. I know carburetors, but not 100% on the jargon. Anyway, here's our float, cork style float. This one's seen better days. I might be able to save it with a little bit of shellac. I'm not sure if it even floats anymore. But as you see, needle and seat is here. This would hang. Okay. See how the needle drops down as the fuel level rises. It'll close off that needle, preventing fuel that's coming in the backside from entering. Okay, so it's got a pretty interesting travel here. Fuel initially comes into this elbow. This is it has a sight glass that would be down here, which acts as a filter. Sediment will settle into the bottom of the sight glass. At the top of the sight glass there will be a fine screen. There's a rubber seal there. It's held down by a pinch clamp. Our pickup tube for that doesn't, this is fill, comes out of the center here, and then pickup for this is going to be right in the side here. It doesn't have a conventional style pickup tube, so fuel will find its way into there, into that passage there, and it's going to make its way through here, up the backside here, through this hole here, where it continues its travels through here, dropping down through this needle and seat until it fills the fuel bowl and closes off via the float. Now, the one thing that I'm not 100% sure on, I don't know if it's because that maybe it's just that it's dirty or whatever. I believe that this has got a spring on it, on the back side of it, that will hold this needle up, or maybe it holds it down. I'm not sure exactly which one, but that should be your main fuel. That's like your main fuel jet. That's your main fuel pickup there. Okay, and I believe when this gets pressed for the prime, that's gonna force fuel past that, maybe and up into here, which would, yeah, I'm not exactly sure. It might force it past that and probably goes all the way down here into this area, and then gets picked up. It's a really weird design. And this, I believe, is the, get this thing out of here. Okay. Take two. So when you press that plunger, I believe it forces fuel through this travels through this runner here, and then it'll make its way up, if you look inside there, to this tube here, bypassing all of that, you know, straight into these ports here. So back to operation on this main needle. So depending on the location of this throttle, or this, I believe this is the high-speed jet, I believe. Depending on the position of that, it's going to determine the ride height of this spring-loaded cap. If you can see that there, how that's moving up and down on this needle here. Now I would assume, I think this must be stuck. This is an old one. I haven't had this one all the way apart yet. But I would assume that that's going to move this needle up and down here, which opens and closes the hole around that, allowing fuel to get sucked in at a slower or greater rate, depending on, you know, where it's at throttle wise. That's what I assume. The interface there, you know, the split is very, very high up here. That's not going to serve much purpose, you know. Like, it's going to have to pick fuel up and then come down. I don't think it works like that. So I think that it should be moving up and down in that hole there, and it's probably caked with a bunch of stuff, and that's why it's not wanting to work right on this by hand. This, I believe, is your slow speed, your idle mixture. And as you see, this needle is going to open and close. It's going to seat down in here. Your passage extends into here, in the backside here, and comes out just in front of that priming needle there. Alright, so here we have the carburetor as it's affixed onto the engine. If you look back there, you can see those levers, and when I move this up into the position there, you can see that one lever forcing the plunger down. Here you see your sight glass and how mine has picked up a little bit of some gunky looking sediment in the bottom there that we're gonna want to get cleaned out of it. Here is your throttle, main throttle, as it moves that main that main tube there. This will be your high-speed jet setting. Prime. You can shut it off here, which I'm not exactly sure what that does. I believe it brings, see, it brings that other arm up and off of that high-speed needle, so allowing that to seat all the way, keeping fuel from being able to go up in there, I suppose. Really, really screwy. And then, like, when you shut her down, you'll see that comes up, making contact on those 2 points. Yeah, cool looking. And there's a plate that's supposed to go over this, so yeah, it's cool looking when the plate's off. But as far as, you know, dependability, who knows? It's probably not very dependable at all. Neat mechanical, little mechanical marvel that they designed there, but it's probably a real piece of junk. So there's that. This is an impellerless water pump. Water will be forced in through this port on the bottom, on the front here, this lower leg. It goes through there into a tube, finds its way up, into this tube here. Kind of hard to see. Comes into the head here. Then it comes out of the head on the opposite side, and here you'll see this tube here. It makes its way back down the leg, where it comes out of the lower unit here, forced it through 3 little ports on the prop. I have the prop off right now, cleaning it. So that's pretty interesting. Another really cool thing I think about this is the seal, the lower unit here. How it has an inspection cover where you can get at the bearing. That's pretty interesting. What else? So because it has this integrated pressurized fuel tank, and to make it a little more sleek in design, they wanted to bring the tank down on top of the engine. And you have an equalization tube from one side to the other. I actually have to put some aviation sealant on all my elbows, and that's fine. But equalization tube goes from one side of the tank to the other on the back side of this petcock here. Here is your pressure tube. And that pressure tube goes from, there's a ball check valve in the side of the block, and I'll show you guys that in a different part of the video. A ball check valve on the side of the block, it takes a pressure pulse off between the cylinders, and the one-way check valve, that ball check valve, it allows pressure to be forced out into the tank but doesn't allow it to escape back. Of course, you're gonna have to vent it properly here. I don't quite know 100% on that procedure. I haven't got this thing to really start on its own yet. I have to introduce gas into the back, take the plugs out one by one, and I can hear that it does have pressure building, and it does runs like a raped ape. Chet. And it does run like a raped ape, but only until it burns off what's in the cylinders. It's not quite picking up what's in the carburetor yet. So it's very possible that I could have an issue with that high-speed needle that I showed you guys earlier, that maybe it's stuck in the off position here, even though I'm coming off it and force. It might not be moving. There could be some debris underneath it. I could possibly not be building enough pressure if that ball check valve isn't quite working properly. I got it freed up, and I can hear hissing at the tank, and my level hasn't necessarily dropped here, so yeah, I'm not sure exactly what's going on. I have thoroughly been through this carburetor. You know, I had them all apart. They all look nasty in their own regard. this was the prettiest. So I used this one with the prettiest of the 3 cork floats that I could find in the best condition. And I'm only, you know, I'm so close to having it right. But yeah, this is going to be a 1947, I believe, to 48 was the year range, before they changed to an SD-20, which is also a 16 horse motor, but it has an external pressurized tank system on it. They got rid of it, so they just put like a cowl cover on and external tank. We are actually going to retrofit this or upgrade this to an external tank, and I'm not 100% sure how I want to do that right now. I'm hoping, you know, if I have enough pulse off of the block, that I'll be able to feed a fuel pump like a... Here we get a little better view at the port for the pressure wave. It supplies pressure to the integrated tank. This is the ball check valve tube. So it actually, I believe it goes like this. Take those 2 bolts off, and what we have is, in the hole there, there's this little rubber ball check valve backed by a spring in that housing there. Pressure wave pressurizes, doesn't allow it to come back. Now that might get all gunked up in there. I cleaned mine out with some spray and air. I took the tube off there, made sure that was free, no mud wasp nests or anything like that. Tested it with my mouth, gave her some CPR until I thought it would hold good. If you really needed to, you could probably have one of these rebuilt. So this is just a press fit cap that's holding that ball check valve in there. That could be pried out or drilled out, or I'm sure a machine shop could handle redoing that. For me though, I just emptied a bunch of cans of cleaner in there, carb cleaner. I like to use the carb cleaner because it leaves a little bit of residue, like an oily residue behind. And I was a little worried. I didn't want to like dry that rubber ball up to have it disintegrate. Like if I was to use like a brake clean or something. Brake cleaning is a really great cleaner. It evaporates quickly. It will not, most of the time it won't leave residue. It depends if it's chlorinated or non-chlorinated, what the brand is. But I used a carb clean on that. A little bit of carb clean and some CPR. We got her working the way it's supposed to. So there's a close-up view of that. Let's see if you guys can kind of see this. This section here is the lobe at which the points will ride on. And here's a high side. It reaches a high side right about there. Okay. And then stays about the same height, and then starts to drop down, drop out right about in here, Anyway, so this is the coil magneto assembly. And what's happening is these little plastic pins are going to ride on that lobe. And as they're reaching their high sides and their low sides, will respectively, let's see if you can see that, open and close that point setup in there. You see that move against that spring steel? Really, really simple, easy to get at point system. I'm liking it. You got one flathead screw right here. You'd be able to take this whole little like tower out that holds that back side of that points. And then you would be able to take a little piece of emery cloth, like a fingernail file. It'll work really good, and clean those up. And that's usually, you know, that's going to be a place to start when you get one of these old motors, is just make sure that you got good clean points. But before you even go digging into all that, you know, give her a spin. it'd check the plugs and see if you get spark at the plug. If you get a nice bright blue arc across the electrode, I wouldn't even worry about it. You know, it's probably fine. This one I lucked out of all 3 motors that I got. They all had really good condition coils, and they're all throwing really nice bright blue sparks, so did really great there. One trick that I like to do that I haven't got to do yet on these is I like to peel these back, and instead of using that little screw there, I will get some automotive crimp ends for the plugs, and I'll put rubber plug boots on the end of this, and I'll use dielectric silicone in there just to make a real nice tight connection there, that it's not making these old coils have to work hard. Because if you get a loose connection there and you get some arcing and whatnot, it's going to overwork these coils. It's going to cause them to go out, and they're old, and I don't want to redo them. I've seen guys that they'll take the new OMC coils that you can get them at Napa, and they'll put them on anything from Mercury's to older Johnsons or Martins or what have you. I don't know if I could get away doing that to this or not, but I'd really rather not have to try. So that's my suggestion there. Automotive plug boot crimp ends. And there you have it. Thank you for joining Tackle Revisited for my first outboard motor review of the Johnson SD-15 16 horse 2-stroke outboard engine. A really interesting, cool looking motor. I was happy to monkey around with it. We did get it to run a little bit if I put some gas in the cylinder. I haven't quite got her 100% yet. Stay tuned for a part 2 of this video when I show you what it's running like once I get it right. But anyhow, lots of hassles with the editing software, and I still haven't quite got that down yet. And as we figure that out, we'll get some more content out to you guys. As always, I appreciate your time and viewing, and don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you get notifications on the newest content. Share. And as always, tight lines. Thank you. Just a little bit more, man. Just a little bit more. It runs.